Welcome back to the AfterHours podcast. I'm your host, Francisco Delator. Co-host today, I got Daniel March.
Howdy.
And we're joined with Dave Haas from the Treehouse Bar in Windsor, Canada. How you doing, Dave?
Good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, man, it's our pleasure. I've been to the Treehouse probably 5 or 6 times. Usually, when I was younger, because I'm from Michigan, so we don't need a passport. We just need an enhanced ID, go over the border when we're 19, and have a good time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Americans are a big part of our clientele. We're only a mile from Detroit, so we get people from all over the place. So Ohio, New York, Illinois, Wisconsin, they come from all over the place to come downtown Windsor.
Yeah, and downtown Windsor, I'd say, is pretty underrated for a night scene, I guess, just because, that one strip, Roulette, has like 8 or 9 bars that you can visit easily in one night. So I really like going there personally.
Yeah, it's a good vibe down there, and it's changed a lot over the years, but there is that real big advantage that you do have, like you said, 8 or 9 bars. There's probably even more than that in a close little proximity, so you can bar hop from place to place. It's if it wasn't for the laws and in Canada, like Windsor could be like the Nashville of Ontario, but we just don't allow that kind of fun to be had.
So Frank was actually telling me earlier about how there's a bar basically right next to you. Do you kind of see that as competition or friendly rivalry, or how does that all go down?
No, actually, I have like a complete opposite view on competition. Like, I don't even consider anybody out there like really competition with me. I believe in cooperation rather than competition. So every time a new bar has opened, every now and then I get a little bit of fear inside of me, like thinking, oh no, they're going to take my business. But every single time my business ends up increasing because they just attract more people downtown. And especially people when they first get into the bar business, they're eager and they want to promote like crazy. So what they do is they end up promoting and bringing more people downtown. And because of the nature of downtown Windsor, people pretty much never just go to one bar, so they're going to go and then they're going to hop around to other bars.
Yeah, and then the casino is right there too. It's a 10-minute walk, not even. So it's definitely like a good little spot where you can go and drink for a little bit, go to the casino and gamble, go get some good food, and then go back to the bars. So that's how my experiences have been. It's always like a little diversity throughout the night, changing it up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And you can just go to different spots. The cover charges are not high, and for the Americans with the dollar exchange, it's a great value because even a $5 cover is really like $3 to you guys. So it's next to nothing.
Yeah. I feel like royalty when I walk in there.
Yeah.
The most painful thing though, is if you're at the casino and you win like decently big and then you change in your chips to go back to the US, you're like, oh shit, I really didn't win that much.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Especially because we're dollars. You guys are dollars too. So you're thinking you're winning US dollars and you convert it over. But when I go to the States and I go to the casinos, it's amazing for me because I get more money back.
Yep.
That's true.
So Dave, how long have you been in business and how did you get started at the Treehouse?
Yeah, well, I'm actually the oldest bar downtown Windsor. I've been in business for 20 years, if you can believe that. I started off in the bar business pretty like organically. I was going to university. I have always been an entrepreneur my whole life. I always tell this story on my platforms about when I was like a 9-year-old kid. I lived like in the county, like really rural county. And there was like this tomato truck, like a wagon and a tractor that had like blown a tire and tomatoes spilt all over the road. And I went around and like picked up all the tomatoes and then I went to my neighbors' houses and sold them all to them. So like right from a very young age, I knew I was an entrepreneur. So when I was 16, I started, my first company was called Squeaky Clean Window Washing. And I literally just washed people's windows at their houses. And that company grew really quickly because I was like just a young kid. I was energetic. I was eager. I did amazing work. I was personable and people liked me. So I went from having 0 customers to having about 500 customers that would call upon me 2 or 3 times a year to come and clean their windows. And eventually I started doing a lot of higher end homes. And, so I'd be doing these big, gigantic jobs and raking in some cash. So while I was doing that, and then I transferred and I was in university for business. And then I got a nighttime job at a local bar called Rush Nightclub, which was these guys from Guelph, which is a town just north of Windsor, well, a couple hours north of Windsor. And they took me under their wing and they made me a bartender. And from that moment, I was kind of like hooked on the whole bar business, nightlife. I became a manager for them. And then eventually I sold my window washing company, which I was still operating while I had the bartending gig. And I sold that company, grabbed some cash from there. And then plus I was making a ton of money in tips. Like, we were making crazy money. I was banking a lot of that. I got a loan from a girlfriend's parents, and I bought into Treehouse, which was already there for about a year, but it was more of a restaurant than it was a bar. And over the years, I kind of made the conversion to the nightlife kind of thing as well. And it just kind of grew from there and blossomed.
So how nice are Treehouse's windows?
Yeah, you know what? They're actually not as good as they should be because I've now delegated all of that work to my employees, and they don't keep them as clean as I would like. But in the summer we have the garage door open at Treehouse, so there's only one door that you see, which is the entrance of the door, door. But they still don't keep that as clean as I'd like them to.
It's fair. You mentioned you have one of the older bars in the area.
Yeah, I'm the oldest bar downtown Windsor.
So that makes me wonder, we have a question that we ask just about every podcast. With it being the oldest bar, have you heard or seen of any paranormal activity in the facility?
No, actually. We haven't seen or heard anything. I think I know, but my building that I'm in was built in like 1902 or something along those lines. And it's been converted many times into many different businesses. But no ghost, but I tell you one thing, it is actually, if you're in there at night, and I remember this happening multiple times, like you're closing up the bars 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and it does get like that little creepy kind of feeling when it's dark in there and you got to shut the lights off and kind of run out the door. You get that extra little boost of energy as you scoot out the door there.
That's spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I haven't seen any ghosts though. That's what you're asking.
Do you have any personal ghost stories outside of working at Treehouse?
Yeah, the one ghost story that I really always tell people is that, and this is it's a hearsay. I think that's how all ghost stories go. But my aunt had a friend that lived in a house that was essentially haunted, and it was haunted so much so that they moved because they would like leave the room and they would come back in the room and all the cupboard doors would be opened, and they felt like this was like a hostile ghost. So they were like, screw this, we're leaving. And when they were taking the picture, the real estate picture to sell the house, one of the pictures, there was a picture of like a little girl's face in the corner. And that was it for them. They sold the house and they were like, we're getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, dude, I'd be scared shitless. There's no way you could pay me to live in that house.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys are one of the oldest in Windsor, and you were kind of the pioneer to bring out the nightlife in Windsor. Why did you choose downtown Windsor, Ontario, as a place that it seemed like 20 years ago really wasn't a nightlife hotspot?
Well, actually, you know what? It was, believe it or not. It wasn't as big as it is now. But the people that I worked for at Rush Nightclub, they saw the opportunity that was in Windsor just because of the American clientele. Like back 20 years ago, the amount of people that were coming across the border every single weekend were just flooding the bars. Like literally, you could not go out downtown Windsor Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night without waiting in line and like early, like at 8, 9 o'clock. And back then there was only like about 3 or 4 bars that really held the market. All of them, which don't exist anymore. It was a Woody's Outhouse, Bentley's, Joker's, and then there was another one. It was called Hell at the Moon, but I don't know if it had a different name before that. But anyways, those 4 bars were basically catering to this huge clientele. So when other people started recognizing this potential that was happening, they started flooding the market. And that's when you started to see like a real influx of bars. That's where Rush Nightclub, where the original place I got started was that these guys from Guelph saw the opportunity in Windsor and they came down and were like, let's make this like a bar scene. And there was actually 2 guys that came down from Guelph and they became competitors, but they were both operating bars. And then from there, it just kept on growing because people were seeing the opportunity with the American clientele coming over.
So we talked a little bit about the past. Let's go ahead and move towards the present. How has Treehouse been dealing with coronavirus, and have you guys started to open back up, or how has everything been going?
No, I mean, unfortunately, Canada is way more conservative than America is, and we are like in lockdown still. We're slowly starting to open up some businesses, but this is like the essential services such as like chiropractic, that kind of stuff. Things like Home Depot and stuff are starting to open, but it's very restricted about how you can go in. So I think the bars are going to be pretty much last on the list with regards to reopening. So at Treehouse, all we've been doing during this time is just focusing on renovating, sprucing the place up because we want to be ready for when we do reopen and people will have, we put a whole new floor in the place, which has been a burden for me for the whole 20 years that I've owned it because it just takes so much abuse. So I finally put like a porcelain tile floor through the whole place. We resurfaced the whole front of the bar. We redid the kitchen. We did so much work. So when people come back, they're going to come back to a pristine, clean, which I guess is going to be good because of the coronavirus. But also they'll have something to look at. Just a new atmosphere inside the bar.
Yeah, because when I talked to Dave originally last week, I was like, yeah, we should definitely come down to Windsor and record it there, but we can't even go over the border.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely want it. It's crazy. And then I have a buddy that lives up in Newfoundland, and he was telling me like nothing, like literally nothing is open there. And he just says it's crazy. Like it's so boring. And the only thing you can really do is go to the grocery store. So I can imagine.
Yeah, and that's it. And like, I mean, our cases compared to the United States are like, they're nothing. I don't even know what the number is, but 'cause I'm not like a big news watcher. So I don't know, but I know it's like, like, let's say it's like, maybe it's like 30,000, 40,000 cases that we have here in Canada. And we are like taking it like we have as many as you guys do. So it's a lot of fear and people are paranoid and I get it. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with regards to, like, are people going to pack back into bars? I mean, like, what Treehouse is built on is, jamming people into that place because they want to be like, this is always one of the things I've said, a part of like, being successful in the bar. It's like, we have very strict capacities. Like, we will have liquor inspectors in our bar. This is what I was talking about, that they won't allow the fun. We'll have them in our bar every other weekend, right? To make sure that we're not going over capacity. We're not over serving people. So they don't really allow the fun to happen. But there's a very fine line for us. Like, we have to run right at full capacity because if we don't, let's say we run 20 to play it safe so we don't get in trouble with the liquor inspectors, what will people say? Oh, Treehouse was dead last weekend, right? Even though we were only 20 below our capacity. So we got to keep it jam packed. And that's been the nature of the beast for 20 years in the bar business. So now with this coronavirus, is like, what's going to happen? That's the big question is, are people going to pack back into the bars again like they once did? Is it going to take years for this to, leave people's minds and feel safe again? These are the big unknowns that I think all bar owners, restaurateurs are really asking themselves.
So what have you been doing to pass the time?
Well, I mean, I have another business, which is I'm basically I call myself a personal achievement specialist, which is basically a fancy word for being a life coach. And I've been in business since I was 16. And I'm 41 now, so 25 years I've been an entrepreneur. So I just like help people, get to where they want to go faster. And so that business is like a big part of what I'm doing. It's kind of like what has I've kind of stepped away from running the full operations of the bar. I have an amazing manager that's taken over the operations there. So I basically manage Treehouse now in about one meeting a week. That's about 2 or 3 hours. And then my staff and my GM are taking on everything else. So during the time I'm renovating the bar. So we got a big renovation going on there. And then also I'm running my other coaching business.
Yeah, I actually saw your website a couple days ago. I really liked it. Very nice looking website. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me was I saw a video on how to deal with going through depression, just continue working. I thought that was a very getting personal now, but a very relatable video because there are times where I might be feeling in that kind of depressing mood, but I still I need to work and everything and really push myself.
Yeah, and I think that's been, and not to, I know this is usually a laid back podcast when we're talking about depression and stuff, but I think it's good. This is where it needed to go, But I think the big thing for people that find themselves getting depressed and find themselves stressed and anxious, I mean, this has been highlighted right now because we're all like not doing anything, and that's when depression and anxiety and stress really comes to the forefront. So it's like the less you do, the more that depression and anxiety starts to have power over you. So, you got to stay moving and keep, you don't have to be grinding and hustling, but you just need to continuously be growing, whatever that looks like for you. So for some people, it's about learning more. For some people, it's about opening businesses. For some people, it's about, getting into amazing shape. But as long as you continue to move forward, it doesn't allow room for that depression and the anxiety to kind of sneak in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
That was well said. And from the Ohio side, we've actually started to open up, and we're seeing now that the bar scene isn't what it used to be. There's more of a new normal now with regards to like capacity. You can only have 40% of what you used to could have was 100%. And also, servers have to wear masks, they have to wear gloves. You can't have tables that are more than, I believe, 8 people in Ohio, and tables have to be separated by at least 6 feet from one another. So it really is different when going out to the bars now, at least in Ohio.
Yeah, and I actually, so I was celebrating my brother's 21st birthday party about a week ago. We had it. We went out to a local B-dubs, and we were the only family there, and it was kind of cool, but also really sad. But It was just, it was crazy just to see an empty B-dubs. It's very echoey, and it was very surreal.
Yeah, and I think that's like, we keep hearing that word, the new normal, and it's until people are able to feel safe again, because like I said earlier, it's like everyone's in fear mode, and they think that they're going to go out there and catch this virus. So until they have safety, and I don't know how that safety is going to come, whether it's they transcend the fear or whether there's a vaccine or whatever the heck it is. I mean, I think we're when this thing originally went down, I remember we made the call to close. I was in Florida, actually. Every year I go to Florida with my family for a month, and it was March 16th, the day before St. Patrick's Day. And I'm in a group chat with all these other bar owners, and I basically laid it out. I said, guys, I think we need to close. Like, people are not going to stand for it. And I was like, I could see the headlines now. It's like greedy bar owners still open, even though the coronavirus is coming for us all, or whatever the headline was going to be. And I said, we got to close. And like a decision that, was like a $20,000 decision for me. We had to make that difficult decision. And then in that time, I was already looking to the future. I'm like, this thing's going to pass. And, after a couple of months, let's do a St. Patrick's Day in the summer or whatever it may be. But now I'm starting to look at this thing going like, are we going to open this year? And I just don't know what the mindset is with regards to the government. And in the States, you guys are a little bit better because you are starting to open up. But it's like, how long can you allow these businesses to struggle? Like Canada's been really good, and they've offered a lot of support, but it's still not enough. Like I'm lucky I own my building, so I just was able to defer my mortgage. Plus, Treehouse is in a good position because we've been around for so long and we have good cash reserves, so we're going to be there. But I know, like I said this in a lot of my content, is that if this would have happened to me 10 years ago, I would have been dead on day 2. Like I would have been out of business on day 2. And this is what you're seeing in Michigan, right? It's like your hometown there, and there's like 60 businesses closing a week. And that's like that's a real concern. Hertz Rental Car just claimed bankruptcy. It's like, this is a company that's been around for 100 years. So there is going to come a time, not to get overly political here, but there is going to come a time where we need to make a decision of like, what is the lesser of two evils here, right? And we're going to have to somehow overcome this. I don't know what the solution is at this time, but it's scary for bar owners. I tell you, like you say, that new normal is like, what is that new normal? And I personally think, for me, that if I didn't have government restrictions, I could open tomorrow and I could pack my bar because my clientele is young and I don't think they're that worried about it. But I don't think the government's going to allow us to do that.
Yeah, I promise you would not have an issue packing the bar, because the bar and grill that's right next to University of Toledo, which is where Dan and I go to school, when they could open up, exactly 2 weeks ago, actually, they opened up the very first night. They may or may not have obeyed the law, and they were beyond max capacity within an hour because that was the only bar they were staffed, ready to serve everybody and stuff like that. And I don't know, Dan, you might have to cut that out. I'm not sure, but
yeah, we didn't say the name. A local bar,
a local Toledo bar right next to the university. So yeah, they got a reputation for that, and they can open up. They're not like forced to close or anything, but they're taking this time to learn from their mistakes, quote unquote. So I promise you wouldn't have an issue with people in your bar. Young people are still more than willing to go out, at least in the States. I don't know Canada, but
yeah, and I think also people are getting stir crazy too. Like you see it, like I'm sure you guys see it around your area too. Is like, my friends and family who were like the strictest of the strict when this thing happened, they're starting to, they'll come over for driveway visits or backyard visits, whereas before they practically wouldn't even leave their house. So you can sense it that people are like, okay, enough is enough, right? Like, let's get back to connecting with people, and let's get back to going out and having fun and eating dinner, let's be in the community again. I think people are like really craving that. So that hopefully that desire will eventually overcome the fear that they have about getting the coronavirus.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too, is like maybe not causing depression, but people are feeling lonely now because they have no societal validation. Whereas before you could go out with your friends and they gas you up, be like, yo, those are some sick shoes, or, like whatever, you just chug that beer so fast. I don't know what the kids are saying these days, but people are definitely missing that sense of community, especially with beer and alcohol and just having a good time, being able to relax. Now everyone's just so on edge. It's kind of killing the vibe, honestly.
Yeah, people are missing that escape and being able to let loose. And that's like one of the things that I've recognized at Treehouse is that, one of the things I think that we provide is we give people that escape. We allow people to go and have fun, and we want them to do that in a manner that is like respectful and nonviolent and these kinds of things. But, it's just finally like get the opportunity to go. And now when you take that away, you realize that, we played a part. And as much as people like to shit on bars, we play a part in allowing people to have that escape from their day to day, allowing people to reconnect and connect with old friends and reconnect with new friends, or make a connection with new friends. I think that everyone's starting to recognize it. They're starting to realize that they miss it. And I do believe if the government will allow us, that when we open, we'll be back on track.
What's the thing you're looking forward to most when you do open back up?
For me, it's just I just love being an entrepreneur. Like I just love every aspect of business. My mind goes all the time on like what ideas, what promotions, how can we provide the most amazing amount of value? How can we train our staff better? It's like, this is the stuff that I get off on, and it's weird, but that's what I want to do. So it's just like, getting the engine going again on how we're going to bring people through the doors, and how when they come through the doors, we're going to make sure that they're having the best experience. Like that's the kind of stuff that I just feed off of, and connecting with my staff and that creativity and connecting with customers too. I mean, if you guys ever came to, Frankie, you said you came to Treehouse before. It's like, you probably saw me standing right out front. You didn't know who I was, but I'm like standing right out front. I stood right out front of Treehouse for probably the first 18 years that I ran that bar, right? And the reason I did that was because I loved interacting with my staff, the doorman and I, and everyone would out there be joking around, and my promoters. And then also, though, every single customer that came through the door, the ones that I recognized, I would go up to and talk to. The new ones, I would joke around with them. Like I love checking people's IDs and making fun of their picture and that kind of thing. So just that connection, I guess, what I was talking about earlier, that's what I can't wait to get back to. And even though I've kind of removed myself now, like I just had a baby, so I'm kind of like stepping away from the nightlife. But even now, I'm like, because it's been so long, like when this thing does open back up, I know I'm going to start coming in there on some Friday and Saturday nights to start connecting with everyone again.
First off, congrats on the newborn.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Secondly, you're a lifelong entrepreneur. What tips would you give to other people that are looking to break from the societal norm and become their own boss?
Yeah, I mean, if you follow my content, this is what I've been digging into a lot lately. And here's the one piece of advice that I think was the ultimate game changer for me. It was that my whole entire life, I was obsessed with trying to figure out how to become successful, right? And this is where I think everyone gets stuck. They're like, how do I open up a bar? How do I start my first company? And this is the only realization that you need to make. Well, there's two. The first part is this. the how will get answered in action. And you hear Gary Vee talking about this shit all the time. It's like, just go do it, right? But he's not really saying it the way it needs to be said. I think it's like, if you just get into action, regardless of whether it's the proper course of action or not, the how will be revealed, right? So if you want to open up a bar, start figuring out what you got to do to open a bar. I'm sure if I said to you, Frank, I said, like, what are the 5 things you need to do to open up a bar, in 6 months? I'm sure you could come up with a list of 5 things that you could start doing, right? So it's just, you start getting into action. And as you get into action, you start learning more and you start realizing what works and what doesn't work. So the how will be revealed to you through action. That is the number one. But then the second thing I think is the most important thing for people is that now that you've realized that all you got to do is take action and learn from that action and grow, the real question will be, why aren't you taking the action, right? And this is when you got to start digging into your belief systems and the programs and whatever you bought into, what your parents have been telling you to go get a job with benefits and this kind of shit, right? It's like, these are the things that you got to start digging into, because all of those things are your blocks to executing on whatever it is you want to achieve. So just to reiterate, it's like, just get into action. And then the how is no longer a question. So you could stop obsessing about it. It's going to be revealed to you. But the second is, once you know that, why aren't you going out and doing it and learn to tune into those resistances and then learn how to move past them?
Well said. And that's something that gets brought up a lot now on social media, is a wantrepreneur, someone that has all these good ideas but is too afraid to execute, or they don't know how to execute, or they're afraid of failing and stuff like that. And really, to become that entrepreneur, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, fail, but then also realize that what is ahead of you is worth failing for. And I think you summed that up very nicely. And one part in our entrepreneurial journey, Dan and I and our team, is that we've had great mentors along the way. And that's helped tremendously just direct us where we need to go. Is there anybody in your life that has helped you out in direction?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why I became a coach, is because I believe in the power of being coached. And that is the critical factor that allowed me to be where I am today, right? It was having a good mentor. My mentor actually came to me from the bar business. His name's Andrew Facca. When I bought into Treehouse, there was 3 partners. I bought one of them out. Over the course of the time, Andrew and I bought the third, and then finally I ended up buying Andrew out completely. But Andrew was my mentor. He was a guy that had achieved a high level of success in his life. And not only did he coach me on how to make the bar busier, but he really coached me on the mindset aspect of everything and how to get in tune with what those resistances were, and taught me how to move past them so I could have the level of success that I have today.
What would you say is the biggest thing you learned from him?
The biggest thing I learned from him was that it's all about awareness. Okay. So without the awareness of a problem, you can't resolve the problem. So what he first taught me, he actually made a movie about it. It's this movie called Voyage to Betterment. And he's like he at the time, he was like a hardcore vegan, and he believed in the power of food to heal you from all illness and disease. And I was a hardcore meat eater, and he basically could see where my life was headed if I stayed on that path. And he said, hey, listen, why don't I put you on this 30-day challenge? And you're going to eat the way I eat, and you're going to reduce your alcohol consumption and all these things, and we'll see what happens. And what he had done was he had blood tests. So I took blood tests before the test, and they came to this thing called Know Your Number. And Biggest Loser later adapted that Know Your Number, which is basically, what are your risks of getting diseases if you continue on this lifestyle? So I did the blood test. I went on his diet for 30 days, which was basically a completely vegan diet. But although he said if you want to eat animal products, you can, but only twice a week. Trying to make this story shorter, at the end of the 30 days, I had lost like 25 pounds. Like, I literally melted away. And people were like, what in the fuck are you doing? Like, they wanted to know, right? All of my risk for illness had reduced by over 50%. My cholesterol dropped by an entire point. And all of that was made possible because I became aware of what I was putting into my body. So that level of awareness, I then began to apply into every aspect of my life. If I was constantly angry, I needed to create awareness around anger and learn how to transcend it. If I was constantly in scarcity mindset, meaning I never had enough, I needed to learn about where that scarcity mindset began, create more awareness around it so that I could move into abundance. If my finances were all out of order and I was spending too much money, I needed to create a spreadsheet to get every dollar that I spent so I could see it and I could have awareness. So I guess the best thing he taught me was about creating the awareness, because without that awareness, we can't solve anything.
That is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard, is that he made you blood test. I mean, I love it, but it comes from that place of I guess, insanity that entrepreneurs have. And I say insanity in like the best way possible, because you really can't achieve being a successful entrepreneur unless you live, breathe, and die by this shit, you know? But no, that's that's one of the best stories I've heard in a while. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. Yeah.
So do you still carry on with the same dietary restrictions to this day?
Yeah. After that was revealed to me, it was kind of like, once you see it, you can't unsee it for me. And I'm still a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan, but I pretty much eat a 90% vegan diet. I actually don't drink alcohol anymore either, which is kind of hilarious that I'm a bar owner. But I made the decision, 9 years ago to just to stop. And now I'm kind of like the drug dealer that doesn't use his own product kind of thing, right? And not that I have anything, not that I think that people shouldn't drink. Obviously, I own a bar, and as long as you can keep it under control. But for me, what I found was that was one of my barriers to success was alcohol, because in the bar, I don't even know if I would consider myself an alcoholic, because I never had alcohol at home or anything, but I was in the bar 7 nights a week, right? And then, Frankie, you would come in and you'd be like, hey, let's have a beer together. And then, you would leave an hour later and then someone else would show up. It was like you always had someone to drink with, right? It just started to become a problem for me. And I was like, this is blocking me from where I want to be in my life. And I had to go through a real deep spiritual journey to understand how to finally be free of it, because I tried all kinds of different variations. I have a saying that I tried every variation of moderation, meaning I tried only drinking on weekends. I tried only drinking on vacation, and it never worked for me. So I finally said, well, this isn't working. I got to cut it. And I made some realizations to do that. And my life completely transformed because of that. So definitely it was about the awareness that he created for me around food. And then I just started, like I said earlier, spilling it over into other areas of my life where I needed to bring that awareness too.
Yeah. And I can confirm some of those bartenders in Windsor and in Canada in general, they do like to have a good time, and they like to make sure that the guest feels included in the experience. I've been to a couple bars where I've seen some bartenders drink more than I was. And I was like happy. I was like, yes, go get them, drink more. But then I was also concerned. I was like, should you just be getting shit-faced on the job? And it wasn't at your establishment, obviously. I've been to Toronto, I've been to Montreal, I've been everywhere. But the bartenders in Canada do it a little bit different than here in the States, and I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah, and that's what you gotta this is a podcast about people that are interested in the bar business, and as a bar owner, you got to have control over your costs, and you guys in the States are lucky because your costs are so low. How much does it cost you guys for a case of beer?
Oh, if I'm getting some like beer, like
about 10, yeah.
Yeah, like $10.
Yeah.
12 maybe.
What do you think a case of beer costs in Windsor? Like
getting
Coors Light.
LC.
Coors Light. How much is a case of 24 Coors Light? How much do you think it costs?
Oh, probably like 22.
It's like $42.
Ooh.
Okay, so this is the price you pay for free healthcare, right? So in my business in Canada, controlling your cost is insanely important, and I always said, like, business is insanely simple. It's like create as many sales as you possibly can, as much sales as you possibly can, and then control your costs. And if you learn how to do that in the bar business, you're going to be successful. But unfortunately, in the bar business, giving your friend a free drink is acceptable, and that essentially is stealing, right? So it's like having a drink behind the bar, overpouring a buddy, making sure a customer gets a free birthday shot. These are all things that we do, but if they get out of hand, you can lose big money. Like, let's just say, for example, like for us, because we have low drink prices and we have high product costs, meaning a case of beer costs $40. If you're not watching that, so if you did $1 million in sales and your product cost is 40%, that's $400,000 you spent in product, right? If you are off by 5%, that just costs you 50 grand in the year. When you're operating in margins that you're only making about 20% profitability, meaning you're only making 200,000 if you do $1 million, that $50,000 hurts. You need to learn how to control your costs, and you can't do it if you're drunk.
That is very true. A lot of my worst mistakes have happened while I was drunk. So
I have many of them too.
Not in this alone. I love it.
So going back to your current diet is there anything that you miss about your previous diet?
No, not really. It's funny because when I made the decision to go vegetarian, I thought that I was going to miss out on meat. But then as I tuned into who I was as a kid, I remember being like a little kid and I could never swallow meat. I remember like always having to spit out steak as like a, whatever, however old you are to remember, maybe 7 or 8. And so it really, I think, was just getting me realigned with who I truly was, and I originally did it for the health benefits. Like I wasn't about the animals and it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But now it's kind of come full circle for me. And it's like, that's what I meant. It's like once you kind of look behind that door, you can't not see it anymore, So because of the path that I've gone down, and I can't unsee what I've seen, and I know I'll never go back to eating animals ever again. And you know what? You adapt. It's like the world. When I went, I've been veg for 15 years, right, which is a long time. And when I went veg, you couldn't get a vegetarian meal anywhere. Like there was no veggie burgers on menus, and now it's like it's all over the place. Like your options are unlimited now. So I don't really miss out on anything. I just always like adapt whatever it is I'm going to eat. I can go to Taco Bell, instead of getting beef on my tacos, I get beans. It's really that simple.
Mm-hmm. That was something I noticed probably like high school, beginning of high school, middle of high school. That was like 8 years ago for me. But I come from like a household where it's, meat, potatoes, maybe a vegetable, and then some water, right? They're just very classic American. And then as I go into high school and then I come to college, it's like, okay, they really have revolutionized the game in terms of what is a meal now. Like you can go out anywhere and it's like non-GMO, no soy, vegetarian friendly, vegan friendly. So that was one of the big eye openers for me personally when I came to college 5 years ago. I don't know if you have a similar experience, Dan, or.
I think that in the restaurant business is like, if you're not catering to that clientele anymore, like you're losing out. It's like I'll go to a steakhouse with like all my best friends. I have a group of like 10 best friends, and they're all beer drinking, meat eating men, right? And like we'll go to a steakhouse, but like now there's 2 of us out of that group of 10 that are vegetarians, and now so it's like if there's not something on the menu for me and my other friend that are veg, it's like the whole group starts to reassess the situation, right? They're like saying, oh, there's nothing for you guys. Let's go to another place. So it's like, as a restaurateur, it's like, you got to be conscious of that, and you got to have at least one veg item. And, I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make in business, is that you tend to think what you like is what everyone else likes. And I know I made this mistake a million times, right? You just need to be aware of like testing, and then like, what are people responding to, and what are the items on your menu that are selling the most? Because if you just think, oh, everyone wants chicken stock in their soup, it's like, well, no, they don't. Right? There's a growing percentage of people that will not eat a soup if there's chicken stock in it, right? There's also a growing percentage of people that aren't going to go to a restaurant if they don't have something for their girlfriend who's vegan or vegetarian or whatever it may be.
So how is your guys' menu when it comes to vegetarian options?
Yeah, we have our actually menu is largely vegetarian based. We have come full circle. Actually, this is kind of a good story. Is that when I bought Treehouse, it was mainly a restaurant, but I was the bar guy, right? I didn't care about food. I didn't even want to deal with food. But we were open 7 days a week as a restaurant, right? And man, managing that kitchen was the hardest thing that I ever had to do, because food is a million times more difficult to manage than booze. Booze is simple. Here's a beer. As long as it's cold, the customer's happy. If they get rowdy, you can kick them out and they're going to come back the next day. Food, though, they could come to you 100 times, love every single meal. They get one bad meal, they won't say a word to you, and they'll never come again, right? And that's kind of like what you're up against in food. Plus, there's a million moving parts. So when I first bought into Treehouse, I wasn't about the food. I wanted to be just a bar. And that's actually what ended up happening. I allowed the food portion of my business to completely it vanished, and it was non-existent. So I went from being open 7 days a week to being open only 4 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, from 8 p.m. until 2 a.m. And that's where I was making all of my money, believe it or not. But now we've come full circle and we're back open 7 days a week. And 2 years ago, we launched our entire menu. Everything on the menu is $5.95. So you can get a 12-inch personal pizza for $5.95, a basket of nachos for $5.95. So everything's like super affordable. But pretty much everything on the menu is actually vegetarian. Then you can add pepperoni or add chicken or add bacon to your pizza. and make it, carnivore special.
It's funny. One of the things that always gets brought up in all of our podcasts is that whenever food gets mentioned, we always get really hungry, and I'm starting to feel it right now.
Yeah, because I know I haven't even eaten yet today, so I'm actually getting really hungry.
Oh, that makes three of us, I think. I haven't eaten yet. I don't think Dan has. What is the one food item that you would recommend to everybody that comes in? What's like a hit that you cannot miss?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably just our pizza. Windsor actually is known for how good our pizza is. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that we have a huge Italian community in Windsor. Like we have Erie Street and Caboto Club and Chichara Club. Like there's just a lot of Italian. My wife's a full pure blood Italian, and Italians, they know how to make pizza. That's the one reason that there's a good culture of pizza already in Windsor. But also we have this cheese company called Galati Cheese, and they make literally the best mozzarella cheese in the entire world. And that combination of that Italian base and this Galati cheese company, it makes for like probably the most perfect pizza that you'll ever eat. So when you come to Windsor, whether it's at Treehouse or anywhere, you got to have our pizza, right? Don't go to Pizza or Little Caesars. Fuck all those places. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's rude. But like I'm saying, when you come to Windsor, you gotta eat a true, authentic Windsor pizza, being from Treehouse or even like some of the local pizza places. And you're going to understand what a real pizza is. People that have left Windsor like rave about the how amazing the pizza is, and then there's even stories of people that have had pizzas flown to wherever they are in the world because that's how good Windsor pizza is.
So I have two really important questions. The first question is thin crust or thick crust, and the second question is Hawaiian pizza worthy of being considered a pizza?
I personally, we are like, there is no like deep dish pizza in Windsor at all. We are all like it's not thin, but it's it's like a regular traditional pizza, no deep dish. So I would say thin crust. And Hawaiian, 100%. I think it's got to be considered a pizza. I mean, even though I don't eat ham anymore, I still love pineapple on my pizza. And I think people that don't enjoy pineapple on their pizza are crazy. So 100%.
I'm glad we're all on the same page. Our team, we actually had a pizza making contest, and so it was one of the groups made Hawaiian pizza, one made chicken Alfredo.
That was my group,
and then one made some really like bougie
balsamic vinegar with like red onion and something else. I mean, it was good, but the Hawaiian pizza, in my opinion, was the best.
Yes, the Hawaiian pizza did win the tournament.
The Hawaiian barbecue.
Yeah, maybe that's the one item I miss since being vegetarian is a Hawaiian pizza with ham and pineapple.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
Yeah, it is good.
So I wanted to come back to the $5.99. Everything on your food menu is that price or lower. You said that you have like a lot of restrictions in Canada for alcohol, and obviously the LCBO being like the only place that people can buy commercial alcohol. Are there a lot of restrictions on the food that you bring in, or is it mostly on the alcohol side?
No, it's mainly on the alcohol. The food is pretty much all over the place. The only real restriction we have in Canada, which you guys are probably not aware of, is dairy and cheese, because Canada put a bunch of tariffs in place to make sure they protect the Canadian farmer. So we don't get any American cheese in at all, which I wish we did because it's about half the cost. So that's the only real restrictions. We do have very strict like health and safety guidelines. So like all of our staff has to have this food handling course. And then we also get inspected semi-annually by the health department. And they're really strict. Like they're looking with flashlights under counters. So you got to make sure your place is pristine. It's pretty hard for you to eat at a dirty restaurant when you come to Canada. Well, in Ontario, I guess I should say at least. So, I mean, you can always set your mind at ease when you're going somewhere that you're going to get, cleanly, because if it's not, they're just going to shut you down.
Well, it's going to be cleanly, and it's also going to be a great experience because the stereotype is that everyone in Canada is really polite and they say sorry or a boot. But in all honesty, though, no, I mean, Windsor is like so chill and so nice. It's really nice to be able to go and like literally walk a couple blocks and never feel like you're in any danger at all or anything like that. I mean, I've been in some bad places in Toledo and Detroit where you really don't have that luxury of just walking around and having the peace of mind. So that's personally why I love Windsor.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all of Canada. Like That's one thing that we have. Like, there's not really, there's one street in Vancouver that I would probably not want to walk down on my own. I can't remember the name of the street, but if you look it up, the pictures are wild. Other than that, there is no real. I'll actually tell a quick little story because I think it'll be funny. I had a good friend of mine that was going to school in Texas A&M. He's from here in Windsor, but he went to school in Texas A&M. We went to Austin to party for the weekend, and like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Austin, but Austin is very much like one big strip of bars. But if you get outside of that strip of bars, like, it becomes like you're kind of in a dangerous area, right? So somehow him and I got separated, and he went home with a girl, and I was going home with a different girl. And anyways, I ended up on the street by myself. And then all of a sudden I found myself in this bad area, and these guys all come up to me, right? And they're like pushing me around and like basically saying like, give me your money. Like, they're going to mug me, I guess. So I, in my drunken state, said, this is what I came up with. I said, I got $20 right here. And I said, I'm going to put this $20 on the ground, and I'm going to fight each and every one of you. And I said, at the end, whoever's left standing gets to keep the $20. And I don't know where this came from or how I came up with this thing. But anyways, this was not my plan to fight all of these guys. So anyways, I take the $20 out of my thing, I put it down on the ground, and then as they're looking at me, I bolt and run as fast as I can towards this convenience store, right? So I go running, and I was running in zigzags because I was worried that they were shooting at me. Like, this is maybe a Canadian being scared of the guns in America or something. But anyways, so I'm running in zigzags. I must have looked like an idiot. I don't even know if these guys are really going to bug me or not. But anyways, I burst through the convenience store door, and there's an off-duty cop that's in the convenience store at all times. He's this big, giant black cop, and he says to me, I tell him the story kind of, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, what in the fuck are you doing in this neighborhood? I was like, I don't know, man. I'm from Canada. And he called me a cab, walked me from the convenience store to the cab, and I got in the cab, went to my hotel. So I survived a near death in Austin, Texas.
There you go.
That is fucked. I mean,
yeah, pretty hilarious.
That's pretty common in most U.S. cities, is that there's one part of the city, or there's like a couple streets that you shouldn't go down. And you really wouldn't know that unless you're from the area. I mean, even though like if someone from Michigan went to, Austin, they probably wouldn't know that. I mean, that's just one of those things. Like in the U.S., you always got to be pretty aware of where you're going.
And it's funny because you'll have a outstanding neighborhood, just looks very lovely, very beautiful, and then like a block down the street, it just dives. Yeah. It's weird how quickly it can change from very nice neighborhood to poverty.
Yeah, 100%.
So I got a question, and I've been curious about this for quite some time now, ever since I was about the age of 19. So I personally never went to Windsor, but I've had a plethora of friends who have went to Windsor from the ages to 19 up. So I was curious, what would you say the ratio is of 19 to 21-year-olds to everyone else?
Yeah, well, downtown Windsor is a young crowd, right? So I would say it's probably it's probably not that high actually. It's probably probably 50-50, let's say, So 50% of the people are 19 to 21, I would say. And then the other 50% are 21 and above, but probably only max to about 28, 29 max. And that's like when you get to 28, 29, it's on the very low end of that 50%.
Or on a normal night, would you say like what percentage is American?
Well, it used to be a lot higher. Like Windsor used to be really, we thrived off the American clientele coming over. But a lot changed. Like 9/11 was one of the hits, right? Like, and I was around in 9/11. I actually bought Treehouse just after 9/11. That just shut the American flow of traffic across the border, completely shut it off, and it took a long time to get it back. And then the other one was when they changed the passport law. Before, you didn't need an enhanced license to get across the border. You didn't need a passport. You just needed your ID and like a birth certificate or anything. Pretty much your driver's license, not enhanced. You could get across the border. So when they changed that law, and even the time leading up to it, the Americans basically just stopped coming. So because of that, Windsor had to adapt and start focusing more on their Canadian clientele. So I would say now the large part of the clientele that is downtown is probably more Canadian. And it's probably like a 70-30 split Canadian to American.
That's pretty reasonable, honestly. I mean, 30%. I would expect it to be a little bit higher, but for all the reasons you just mentioned, I mean, it makes sense. I just know whenever.
Yeah, I mean, and also this is just a guess.
Yeah, I just remember like whenever we would go there, whenever I was in Windsor, like a year ago or 2 years ago, it was pretty common. I actually ran into somebody that was from my high school that was in the same bar. It was at the bar next door to yours. What is it? I can't even remember the name. Lefties, yes.
There's Lefties.
Yeah. So we were literally at Lefties, and I was like, "Hey, Carly, what's going on?" And it was just like the most ridiculous coincidence. I just never thought I'd see someone from my hometown in the same bar in a different country. It was wild.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, I mean, the big thing that I hate or regret or whatever it is, I don't know what the feeling is just that potential that is lost in Windsor, because Windsor could be literally, like I say, like a Nashville, but because of our laws and regulations, like we just won't ever allow that. Like I remember I was in Nashville and this like truck goes by with a wagon and the guy playing guitar and a bunch of people drinking beer standing up in the back of this wagon driving down the strip of Nashville. I'm like, that would never be allowed in Canada. We are just like the fun police, like we just don't allow anything to like be fun, and heaven forbid you ever create a whole entire industry around drinking alcohol, right? It's like, we're just like really, like we would never have a Vegas, we would never have a Nashville just because of those rules and restrictions. But imagine what Windsor could be if we really embraced that, right? It's like we would attract people from all over the United States that were 19 to 21 that wanted to come and have a good time, kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely. I have heard, though, that out in Alberta, there are not as many restrictions, and Edmonton specifically gets kind of crazy. That's just what I've heard and what people have said. I don't know how true that is, but...
Yeah, it is true, actually, because there has been a few bar owners that I know that left Ontario because they were just so fed up with the restrictions, and they moved out to Calgary to start up bars out there.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't mind stopping by Alberta once or twice. I mean.
Have you ever considered expanding?
I actually did expand. Right in when the economy was like kind of collapsing there in 2007, I just kind of saw it as an amazing opportunity to like purchase up a bunch of businesses, and because everything was so cheap. So I opened up Symbol Nightclub, which was a really cool concept with some friends of mine. Essentially, it was a nightclub that had a membership-only upstairs lounge. So you had to have a membership in order to go up there. So it was kind of exclusive. It was cool. We had a limo that if you had a membership, the limo would pick you up and bring you there as long as you booked it in advance. And it was good. The concept was good. We were just completely underfunded. If I would have had more cash, we would have survived. I ended up selling that to another bar owner downtown. They transformed it into the bank. Now it's Imperial, like it's changed names a few times. I also opened up another like pub style place called the Well House. That one didn't do well, and ultimately I closed that one. I sold Symbol. I also opened up a high end fast food restaurant that was called Black Kettle Bistro, which was like served high end food but quickly, kind of like a Wolfgang Puck's fast food place that you see in airports. And that did all right, but we weren't making the numbers. We ended up closing that. So ultimately what I learned from this trying to expand was like, this is the big lesson, was that I was always focused on what was next in order to make me money. Like, what can I do to make more money? When I finally came to that realization and I had sold and closed down those other businesses, and I put all of my energy back in Treehouse solely, like with 100% commitment, and I didn't have my eyes on any other prize. That's when Treehouse like went through the roof, and in about 2 years we doubled our sales from where we previously were, because my attention had been spread out over the course of like 3 or 4 other businesses.
That's awesome. So one question I have: if you could go to any bar, if you did drink, excluding Treehouse, where would it be?
Excluding Treehouse?
Excluding Treehouse
or any of your other establishments.
Downtown Windsor, or like in anywhere in the world, you mean?
Let's go with one of each. Let's go with one in Windsor and then also one anywhere.
Downtown Windsor, where would I go now? I would probably go to 29 Park, which is right on the corner from me. They, like me, have been in business a long time, and I've learned a lot from just watching how those guys operate, and they really know how to treat their customers well, and that's been like, I think, the key to their success. Plus, it's a beautiful spot, beautiful place. I think that's probably where I would head over there if I wanted like a nice night out with friends kind of thing, like in a club setting. Anywhere in the world, I don't know. I really have like got so far removed from the bar scene and going out to bars. But I remember my friends and we used to go to Vegas every single year. We went to, I don't even think it's there anymore. It was like Studio 54 and MGM. I think it's called something different now. But anyways, every time we go away with my buddy, we always get bottle service and do this whole thing. And this happened to be like one of the most amazing experiences because we had like this booth and like literally we were kind of like the center of attention and everyone was coming into it was like amazing. So I love, I guess, big gigantic clubs because I like, not only is the experience really cool, but it's just like we don't have that in Windsor or really anywhere. Like, well, I guess in Toronto there's some really big places, but like they just know how to do it right, and it seems like the money is unlimited that they can spend, and the decor is just out of this world. And I just love seeing what this industry really could become with the proper energy and attention to do it and to make it that big.
No, you're absolutely correct. Especially, I mean, in Vegas, they get a lot of funding, and once they start rolling, the return on investment is insane. I mean, if you look at the top 10 nightclubs in the United States, I don't quote me on this, but I believe 6 of them are in Las Vegas. So that just showed, with the right funding, the right support, you can easily make like a nightlife hotspot a viable product or a viable service that people want to attend.
Yeah, 100%. One of the biggest things that I had for me was like, I was caught in this mindset for the longest time that there was no money in the bar business, especially in Canada, right? Where I have 40% product costs, and that's what I thought I had to get out of the bar business to make money. But once I really buckled down and got rid of that mindset, there was all kinds of money to be made, right? I just wasn't able to see it before. So I guess this is for anyone. If you're listening to the podcast and you get stuck thinking you're in the wrong industry, it's like you need to take another look at that because there's people that make money in every single industry, And I remember one time what changed my mindset is I met this guy that owned like 6 or 7 nightclubs, and this guy was like filthy rich, he drove a Ferrari, right? And I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, there is money to be made in this industry, right? Like it was right in front of me. I'm looking at this guy in his Ferrari, right? And I'm like, oh, like there is money to be made. Once that clicked for me, I just got laser like focused on one thing. And then that's how I was able to make Treehouse, survive longer than anybody else downtown.
So what's kind of like the brand of Treehouse? Do you kind of go off of like a Treehousey kind of brand, or?
Yeah, Dan hasn't been there, so
our slogan is that we've been keeping partying affordable since 2000. What we aim to do at Treehouse is just provide the most amount of value possible to the customer. So when you walk through our doors, you're going to get $3 drinks. We never, ever start cover before 11 o'clock. We never raise our drink prices. So whiskey, rum, vodka, and gin are $3 every day, all night. There is no this price till midnight. It's just like that's the price. We have $4 Jaeger and vodka bombs, which actually vodka bombs, that's something that you guys got to get on in the States because vodka bombs are like our number one seller. We sell more Red Bull than anybody else in the city of Windsor because we sell so many vodka bombs, which is just like flavored vodka and Red Bull. Instead of Jaeger and Red Bull, it's flavored vodka and Red Bull. And it's a complete game changer. They're so delicious and they're just as powerful and just as strong. But you don't get that cringy feeling when you drink the Jaeger bomb. Yeah, so really it's just about providing amazing value, and that's what you see in our drink specials, in our cover charge, and in our food menu, which is everything's $5.95. We just want to make sure that we're not I believe in this mindset. It's like the restaurant and bar business has gotten very, I don't know if I want to say greedy, but like in Canada especially, you guys are a little bit more lucky because your costs aren't as high. But like to go out for like a burger and fries and a beer in Canada, you're paying like $25. It's just ridiculous. And I know that it doesn't have to be that expensive. Like I sell $3 drinks and $5.95 pizzas, and I'm still making a great living, right? So we just don't like ripping people off, and I think people are able to see that authenticity, and that's what keeps us, so popular in the Windsor nightlife scene.
I 100% agree, and I can attest. I've been there many nights, even to the point where you mentioned the vodka bombs with flavored Red Bull and flavored vodka. I might have, asked the bartender to make me a mix and match, and then I tried to guess it. Might have done that 4 or 5 times, and see where the night takes me, But no, on a for real note though, every time I've been there, like bomb food, bomb drinks, and it's always like mad cheap. So big fan of that. And also one thing you did forget to mention was the mini pitchers, or I guess not even mini, but like pictures, like $6. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we were looking, we have mini pitchers every night that are $8, and it's 3 ounces of booze with like you can make any style drink, whatever you want, as long as it's not premium booze, obviously. And you put it in a mini pitcher, so that way you only have to go up to the bar once, and you got 3 drinks in your hand. But when we were looking at creating a weeknight promotion, what we basically said is like, how can we create so much value, make like a true college night? And basically what we did was we took our mini pitchers and we put them on special. And so for $6, you can get a mini pitcher every Thursday night. And that is like our college night. It's like, there's no cover, just come, have a good time. We're really not really making next to any money on the mini pitcher. So it's like really just like a night for us to give back to like all the people that support us on the weekend. And it's just so much fun. You get cheap drinks. I mean, literally for, let's say $12, you can have like a really, really, really good night.
Oh, 100%. I've had many great nights there, especially with the mini pitchers. Always helps. Yeah. Do you guys still do live like music and entertainment, or is it all stereo now?
No, we have a DJ 7 nights a week. That is our one thing that we like really stick to because we want that consistency. But then on Friday, Saturday nights, and this is something that really sets us apart, we have our pre-party, which is like we have live music, and I think it only works because of the food element too. So we got the food. You got the pre-party, so we have amazing musicians. There's one guy, Jake Van Doggen, he plays every Friday. And then we have the Paul and Randy Show, who are absolutely amazing. They play every Saturday. And basically what we call it is the pre-party. It's like the party before the party. So if you're coming to Windsor, you got to come to Treehouse from 7 till 10 and pre-party because there's literally nothing else to do. Come have some cheap food, cheap drinks, listen to some amazing music. And it's like, I think it is my favorite part of the night is the pre-party, just because people are interacting. They're not too drunk yet to start getting annoying, and they're having fun and enjoying the food and the music.
All right, so this is going to be the best segue out there. What is your greatest strength and weakness?
That's a good question. I actually haven't really answered this question. This is a question I always ask in interviews, so I don't know why I thought about it. I guess my greatest strength is my ability to communicate. Like that's what I'm now tuned into. Like this is what I want to be doing, which is actually things like podcasts, speaking engagements, coaching people. I guess my greatest strength was having the awareness of what my strength was. My weakness is probably still sometimes chasing things because of the money. That's what I did for a long time in my life. It was like all I cared about was making money. And it wasn't until I was able to get out of that getting mode and move into the giving mode where everything changed. But sometimes I still find myself getting stuck in getting mode, and I have to kind of like slap myself in the face to get myself out of it.
I mean, I guess that's like a blessing and a curse because it's motivation, maybe not the money itself, but it definitely points you in a direction for entrepreneurship. Like you said, every industry has something that is, it wouldn't be an industry if it wasn't profitable, right? So, there's people that you can learn from in every industry and how to make the correct living within an industry. So I don't think there's anything wrong with chasing the money. You just have to be passionate about it as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree and disagree with you on that. Like, I think you can't make it all about the money. Like, the biggest leaps I made in the bar business was when I instead of like, for example, I used to create promotions on, and this is the mindset, how could I get people into my door, right? And when you are in the mode of getting, you're never going to really truly become truly successful. You might get some success, but then you're going to end up falling, So when I switched from getting to giving, meaning now when I looked at creating a promotion, how can I look at giving the most amount of value to my customers? How can I look at giving the most amazing experience to my customers? When I flipped that mindset, everything changed for me in my business.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that clip right there, I'm gonna have to put that. So we started a new thing in our social media is we do little short segments where we do like a minute of just really cool quotes that we have in our podcast, and that right there, I really like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan does a lot of the audio behind the scenes, but he also takes care of our social medias too. And if you ever check out our social medias, we actually just started doing, clips, like 45 to a minute clips where it's talking about like our guest experiences. And I think that's pretty fire one. So
oh yeah,
that's pretty decent.
That one hit.
That's the way you got to do it now though. Is like, you know, you got to produce long pieces of content, podcast videos, whatever, and then chop them up into shorter pieces for Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want to post them to drive people to the longer pieces of content. I mean, that's how, my personal Instagram, that's how I was able to grow it, you know, from 0 to, 13,000 followers, was by producing a large volume of content and driving people to my long pieces of content, you know?
So this is going back a little bit, but so you mentioned a little earlier that you listened to Gary Vee. I know he's really big into social media. What are some like advice or some things that you've heard from Gary Vee that you really liked?
Well, I mean, I think just going back to what I just said is like learn how to produce a ton of content. This is something that I've done really well with my coaching platform, not as well in Treehouse, you know. And also, I think the other big thing is, so one is produce a lot of content. The other thing is, don't make your Facebook and Instagram like an advertising tool. And make it like a TV show that people want to watch, and then every now and then drop an advertisement, right? So it's like, it's not like in the beginning, my social media was all like, come out on Thursday night, come do this, do whatever. But now my content is like, oh, here's a drink that we sell. There's no ask, you know, it's just like, what do you guys think about this delicious drink? We tell them like what the ingredients are. So it's like, we're trying to create content that people want to watch. And then every now and then we'll say, hey, don't forget to come check us out on St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yeah, and that kind of goes into what you're talking about earlier, where you want to kind of, what can you give to your audience instead of what can you get from your audience with the content that you're getting out there. It's not necessarily about, hey, come buy this, but it's more about, hey, there's this thing that you might like. Here's some information on it, or here's some entertainment for you. Check it out.
Yeah, 100%. And look at like Barstool Sports, right? It's like, they're not really selling you that much ever. They're just content, making you want to watch, making you want to engage. And then every now and then they'll say, oh, buy this t-shirt, so like that's the exact same thing that you need to do with your social media game and whatever you're doing, really, is like create value. I mean, that could be the theme of this podcast, right? It's like, how are you creating value for your end user? And it's like, doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're in the restaurant business, it's like, how do you create the most amazing amount of value? What separates you from every other restaurant out there? And it has to be about the value. It's like, how are you delivering more value than the guy next door to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually part of the reason why we started the podcast originally was we're all fresh out of college. We all have our degrees, diverse background. There's 6 of us. And one thing that we came across was, all right, we want to build applications. We're a software company, but we also want to engage in the bar scene because, our first software as a service that we're selling is a bar crawl app. That's neither here nor there, but it's really just, we want to know how to engage with customers, which would be bar owners, but then also, we're college students. We know what the college students want, what they like. And that's one thing that we're always striving towards is, how do we provide the best product or the best service to the people that we want to use the product? And one quote that was actually on our social media, it's going to be on our social media next week, is build something that 100 people will love instead of build a product that only 1,000 people kind of like. And so that's where we're still from entrepreneurs like yourself and other people, is how do we build the best product that's going to have the highest, not necessarily return on investment, but how do we provide the best experience for users?
100%. I would take that even a step further and build a piece of content that one person's going to love, right? Because it's like, if you can create one ambassador for your brand, that basically an ambassador for your brand is someone that's going to tell 2 more people about it, right? If you can create that content that gets other people to, like, that they're so connected to it, like, oh, you got to see this clip, you got to read this quote. That's what's going to grow your social media, right? It's like, if you start thinking too big picture, you'll end up losing it, right? So it's like, how can you connect with the people that you already have following you, make them, really connect with them, make them love you, because when they love you, they're going to tell other people. And like, literally, that is the model of Treehouse. That's why we're here for 20 years. Is like, Frankie, you came over here to Michigan, right? And then if you had little brothers and sisters, or you have friends, when you go to Windsor, you got to go to Treehouse. Right? It's like, they got $3 drinks, they got $4 bombs. It's the best place. They got the pre-party, So that's basically ultimately what it is. You want to create ambassadors for your brand.
That's well said. And I'd always try to do that with everywhere that I go. My father's in the restaurant industry, and he He pretty much lives and breathes by his clientele, also, referring to him or referring his restaurant. And I want to be an ambassador in that space. I know ambassador is becoming a meta term at this point, but I really do like to represent the bars that I've been to. And that's really why I wanted to get you on the podcast, is because I've been to your bar and never had a bad time there. So.
Yeah, 100%.
And you were speaking of effective advertising on social media. And I don't know if you did this by design, but you did advertise your December advent calendar, where each day in December you do something different throughout the holiday stretch. And I just happened to be there on the day where you guys did $4. I can't remember if it's $3 or $4 shots. This was in 2018. But it was very cheap shots, any shot. And that was probably one of my best nights out ever. So
yeah, like that night, actually, our 12 nights of Christmas, which was really kind of now expanded to 14 nights of Christmas, but we still call it 12 nights of Christmas because it sounds better. But that promotion is something that has been building over the years. And this kind of brings me back to another real crucial factor of the success of Treehouse, which is consistency. We stick behind the things that we do. Like we have $3 drinks all the time. We have our $5.95 menu all the time. $70 bottle service, like those things never change. And then another thing, we start bringing it into our promotions, like our St. Patrick's Day promotion is similar all the time. Our New Year's promotion is similar. And then our 12 nights of Christmas, which is by far the most busy time ever in Treehouse, has been absolutely insane, where basically we turn every single night into a Saturday night with some sort of promotion or giveaway. And again, that gets back to giving. That night that you came is our customer appreciation night. It's like, how can we give the most amount of value to the people that supported us all year long? It's like, here, everything in the bar is $3. $3 beers, $3 shots, $3 bombs, everything's $3, right? So that night is always insane fun and also insane in some ways.
Lit. As the kids say.
As the kids say.
Yeah, 100%.
So, Frank, you want to go ahead and move on to the fun questions?
Yeah, I feel like we've covered a pretty good amount of ground in terms of entrepreneurship and, Treehouse, but we always do like to get our fun questions in with our guests and just pick their mind on a personal level. We already asked about your goat story, and, we already covered that topic, but what is one place that you've been to in the past that you would recommend to others? Whether it's an establishment or like a geographical place like Europe or something.
I think probably the greatest trip I've ever been on in my life was the BVIs. I'm a big sailor. Like I competitively race sailing. So anyways, my wife and I went to the BVIs and we rented a sailboat for 9 days, and we just sailed from island to island. It was literally the greatest vacation I've ever been on, because there's people in resorts and they're looking out into the bay where our boat was anchored, and like we are the scenery. Like we're a part of the scenery, right? You can jump off the back of your boat and snorkel, and you see all kinds of fish and barracuda and everything that you want to see. There was all there. I didn't see any sharks, thank God. By far the greatest trip I've ever been on. The food was amazing. I'm sure the drinks were amazing because there's all kinds of tropical drinks. And yeah, it was just a really unique experience. And that's what I try and do in any vacationing that I do. It's like I haven't been to an all-inclusive resort in probably 15 years, because I just want to have a unique experience and really get to know the place that I'm going to. So that's what I always strive for when I'm traveling. Another place that I would recommend real quickly is downtown Detroit has like really been making a turnaround, and they have this one little alleyway that they've turned into. I can't remember the name of the alleyway, but it's all these little outdoor bars. Detroit, the turnaround that Detroit has made has been absolutely phenomenal. And I hope that with all the race riots and stuff that's going on right now, protests, I hope they're able to bounce back, because that's what killed Detroit, in the 70s. I think they will from this. It doesn't seem to be as terrible. But Detroit is like making this amazing comeback. And if you haven't been downtown Detroit in a while, it's definitely a place to check out.
Yeah, I was actually, I just recently finished a series on Hulu called Abandoned, where they visit places that may have been abandoned. And their season finale was Detroit. And they're really talking about how, Detroit, it just completely went downhill in the 80s or 70s, whatever it was, because what they said was it had something to do with there was like black workers working at a factory, and then the white workers didn't like that, so then they moved out, and so then the whole city got deserted. And then it's just been going uphill from there. The community is just outstanding out there, where everyone's like working together. You have people working on like these compost areas where they sell like compost for local farmers, and they're just completely rebuilding. You have deserted buildings where they're completely transforming them. And it's really amazing what they're doing out there.
Yeah, and it's like really like I mean I don't want to take away from what everyone's doing, but there's a power of a couple of guys. The guy that owns Rock Financial there, Dave Illich or something. I can't. Wow, this is terrible. I don't know these names. But anyways, these couple like multi-millionaires, billionaires probably, I don't know, who basically just collectively got together and said like, let's bring the city back online. And Detroit kind of hit rock bottom. Probably just after 9/11, they claimed bankruptcy as a city, and there was just all this trouble, and basically at some point these leaders made the decision like, hey, let's pull this city around, and man, did they ever do an amazing job. And I've always said, imagine if Detroit was Chicago, like what that would look like for Windsor, because we are only a mile apart that separates us, right? So it's like if Detroit was Chicago, imagine it. And that's what's happening, it's probably going to take another 10 years, but Detroit is making this huge turnaround, and Windsor is going to be right next door as the sister city. So we're gonna experience all the benefits. It kind of goes back to my original thing that I said when we first started. It's like, I believe in cooperation, not competition, right? It's like, imagine what would happen if Windsor and Detroit cooperated on creating a tourism industry where you could visit two cities at once. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm actually like from very close to Detroit. I'm from River Rouge, which is a city that's 10 minutes outside of Detroit. It's not the best socioeconomic area, but I'm from the greater Detroit area, for a lack of better terms. And I mean, I have friends now who are graduating college and they're like engineers and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, we're going to move down to Detroit and we're going to work down there. I'm like, wait, what? And then it wasn't until like a year ago, I actually went and, started revisiting all these places like that Mike Illich owned, right? So he owns, rest in peace, Mike Illich, but
yeah.
He owns the Detroit Red Wings. He owns the Tigers, and he also had like a lot of property that he owned within the Detroit area. And now you can see that return on investment is people with high paying jobs are starting to now flood the city again. Like I said, I have friends that are engineers and they're going to school for medical school at Wayne State, and I believe in the next 10 years, Detroit is going to be prospering at a level that we haven't seen for at least 50 to 100 years at this point. But I'm super excited for the future. And and some of that trickle down will definitely be going to Windsor. Like you said, we're only a mile apart. And everybody that I know, I mean, since you turned 19, it's tradition to go to Windsor. So very excited for what the future holds.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you say is the most thrill-seeking thing you've ever done in your life?
Well, every year, my wife and I go snowboarding, and I have this saying that I'm going to go out and scare the shit out of myself on my snowboard. So I basically just go to the highest peaks, the steepest I can go. And I just push the limits of my comfort zone, and that's what this life is all about. It's like, if you're not pushing those limits, you're not feeling that uncomfortability, you're not feeling that fear, it means that you're stagnant, and that's the same for business. And that's why I'm always just constantly moving forward. That's when I feel that I'm at my best. So recently this year we went to, before all the Corona stuff happened, we were in Vail, Colorado, and Vail got one of the biggest snowstorms, top 5 snowstorms of all time that has ever happened. And we were literally in like 3 feet of powder. And you want to talk about pushing your limits of comfortability. That was definitely doing it, because like literally if you fell, it was a 10-minute process to get up because the snow was so deep. Yeah, one of the most amazing trips I've ever been on. And it was because I was like pushing those boundaries.
Yeah, one quote that I've really liked is, if you are afraid of dying, then you're also afraid of living.
Yeah. I just did a whole podcast, recorded it today. It's going to come out this week on how to transcend the fear of death.
Literally. You don't drink anymore, but you used to be an avid party goer. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm going to say it. And, you also like the night. Do you have a hangover recipe, or do you think that's real or not?
My only hangover recipe was to drink more, which is probably not the greatest hangover recipe, but it worked. I remember my friends, we would go to Vegas, we'd feel so terrible the next morning. We were all, especially as we started getting older, like I quit drinking when I was 33. So like near the, in our early 30s, like those hangovers started getting a lot worse. No matter how bad you felt, you had a beer, and after 1 or 2 beers, you bounce back and you were back on track. Now, not really the remedy I'd recommend today, but it worked for me back in the day.
I mean, that's usually my go-to is, just have like a Bloody Mary the next morning or shotgun a beer or something. That is what I get.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll tell you guys another quick little funny story. We had this local restaurant in our local mall called Moxie's, and it used to be like where we'd hang out all the time. So after every Saturday night, and this is when I was working at the bar drinking all the time, we would all meet at Moxie's in the morning. We would have Caesars and have lunch or whatever. Well, it wasn't the morning; it was afternoon. So, anyways, one day I was drinking with my friends there from 11 in the morning till about 11 at night. Right, my bill was like $580. We went through like 3 shift changes of waitresses. Anyway, so we went out and we ended up going downtown after. So the next morning, I called up my buddy and said, "Hey man, I left my car at the mall. Like, can you drive me to the mall to pick up my car?" So he drives me to the mall, and my car's not there. And I'm like, "What? I know I didn't drive it anywhere." Like, I'm pretty sure. I'm like, "Did I drive somewhere?" I'm calling up like the places I remember going to. And then finally, I just came to the realization that someone stole my car. I left it in the parking lot of the mall. Someone saw it and said, "Hey, this is a nice ride home," and took off and stole it.
I don't know how you lived through that. I would have way too much anxiety.
They eventually ended up finding the car, so that was kind of a bummer. But I was hoping to get a replacement, but they ended up finding it and had a few little scratches and dings. The window was smashed, and they fixed it up.
If you weren't operating a bar right now or coaching, because I know that's your second passion, what do you think you could be doing right now?
Well, I mean, I really think I have the ability to do anything, whatever I set my mind to. So, and for me, it was just about getting aligned with my true purpose, which is giving back, helping people. So, I mean, coaching is what I'll do forever. I mean, the bar business, I'm sure at some point will be the thing of the past for me, but this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. If I wasn't doing this, then it would mean that I would be probably sailing around the world.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a pretty good answer. I mean, who wouldn't love going around the world and traveling and sailing,
Yeah.
What is your hometown?
I grew up in Essex, Ontario, which is in Essex County. It's in the center of Essex County where Windsor is. So I'm only about 20 minutes outside of Windsor. And then when I was 21, I bought my first house in Windsor, and then I've lived in Windsor ever since.
Do you have a favorite hometown bar by chance?
Well, when I was coming up in Windsor, the place that I used to go to was Woody's Outhouse, which is what, like I remember I was telling you in the beginning of the heyday of Windsor, Woody's Outhouse was my spot. And I remember Thursday nights they had $1.50 beers, I think $1.50 drinks, which was like, you can't even, that's not even allowed in Canada anymore. You can't have any drinks below $2.
Jesus.
Anyways, and it was the greatest night. If you weren't there by 8 o'clock, you weren't getting in. It was just lined up all night long, and all my friends and everyone would come. So I have to say, rest in peace, Woody's Outhouse, but it was definitely Woody's Outhouse.
Yeah, for a loonie, you could get anything, right?
Yeah.
No, that's just like a joke because we don't have the coin dollars here, but it's pretty cool because in Windsor, I mean, you can just take a couple of those to the bar and you're chilling. So
I know you guys hate on the coins, but I tell you, I love the coins because you know what? I actually use it as a saving technique. Like I never pay for anything with the change, right? So even if it's $1.50, I pay with my $5 bill. They give me $3.50 back in change, and I leave that change in my pocket. I go home every night, I dump it into a bin, and then whenever I go on vacation, I take that money, I roll it all up, and it's usually like a couple $1,000, and that's my spending money for the vacation.
That's pretty elite strategy. But how do strip clubs work? Because do you just throw coins at the dancers, or?
Yeah, they do. They do actually. They do put $2. We have a toonie and a loonie, a $2 coin and a $1 coin. So they do lay on the stage and put a toonie in your mouth, which actually makes it harder for the stripper to get it out of your mouth. So you get a little bit of a better dance than you would with $1 sticking out of your mouth. But I think because of inflation and stuff where we're at, I think if you're going to be getting on stage and having a stripper rub her ass and her tits in your face, you should be at least spending $5.
All right, Dan, we got to go to Windsor.
The more you know. Off of that, do you have any words of inspiration that you'd like to say before we close up?
You know what? I mean, this is kind of like what I do, but I think the message of all of this was, I think what allowed me to be successful in business was that I never really had a fear of failure. I just continuously moved forward. And as I moved forward, I learned more and more and more. And someone asked me this recently. They said, what would you do differently? Like, I'm 41 now, and this is a 25-year-old guy I was talking to. He said, what would you do differently if from now, like when you're 25 now? And I said, that answer actually kind of surprised me, as I would focus all of my energy on spiritual growth and mindset. Because when I was 25, all I cared about was making money. And it wasn't until I realized how to let go of that desire for money that all the money that I ever wanted began to flow into my life. So that was the biggest transformation. If I would have been able to make that, 10 years earlier, man, the places I would be right now would be unthinkable, right? So really about creating that awareness about like, what are your issues? What are your blocks to success? Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, like the how will get answered in action, but the real question is, why aren't you taking the action? And when you start to dig into that and learn what is resisting, what your blocks are to success, that's when you can really begin to transcend. And life becomes, like, for me, like my life is 100% effortless. Even though I work 10, 12 hours a day, I never feel like I'm working a day in my life because I'm in tune with what I really, truly want to do. And I'm also not forcing anything because my goal is to impact millions of people, right? So it's like, whether I achieve that goal or not, I'm still a very happy person, right? So there is no more like grind or hustle for me. It's just about like doing the work every single day. And I know if I do that, eventually all of that will come into my life.
Yeah, well said, Dave. And I think I'm going to start listening to your podcast more. I really didn't even know you had it until we got into further communication. Everybody that's listening to this right now, make sure you guys go check out Rise Up Rich by Dave Haas. It's very inspirational and very good. And also, I might be looking for some coaching or some help because there is 6 of us right now, and we have taken on the entrepreneurial role of working 10 to 16 hours a day. Every day. And I mean, we're doing pretty great for ourselves, but we might need your help in the near future just for some guidance. So I might be
The one thing, I'll give you one little piece of coaching right now. And this is something that all my coaching is from experience. Like I don't coach on anything that I read in a book and then I had to experience it personally. And the one reason that my business has failed when I tried to expand the restaurant business is because I had 4 business partners. And we didn't elect one person who was in charge, right? And that was like, I think the biggest mistake that we made because no one was accountable to anybody, right? So everyone was kind of just doing like random tasks and everyone always felt like they were doing more than the other person, right? So at the time we owned 3 bars and there was 3 of us, the main owners. What we would have been way better off doing was saying, you are in charge of this bar, you're in charge of this bar, and you're in charge of this bar, and nothing intertwines, like you're responsible for this. But instead we were trying 3 people to run 3 separate establishments all together. It just never worked. So for you guys, especially if there's 6 of you, really clearly defining your roles or assigning one person, the CEO, that kind of like delegates all the tasks and gives people their own individual responsibilities, because without that you have no accountability and then everything just gets cloudy and messy.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm pretty glad that we have is that we have Evan, who's our CEO, and he's always very in tune with what's going around. Has that awareness trait, right? So he's always learning new stuff, and if he didn't know it before, he's going to pick it up, and then he relays it to us in a way that we can learn on the job and very quickly. But he also gives us tasks that he knows that each of us are designed to do. He's a great delegator, and then our other leader, which is our COO. Matthew, he's great with the team and he understands us on a personal level. And so, I mean, I love the team that we have. And then we have Dan, who does a lot of our media. He does a lot of our graphic designing, and he does, websites. And then I do a lot of the business development. So, sales funnels, generating leads and stuff like that.
Good.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys already got it under control over there. So that's good.
No, it was really reassuring to hear you say that, though, just to make sure that we're doing something, right? But thank you. Where can everybody find you? I know that you also have your own podcast, Rise Up Rich by Dave Haas. Check him out. But what are the social?
Yeah, well, my social media, everything pretty much is at David F. Haas. That's my middle name, Frank. So in order to get the unique handle, I had to put the F in there. So it's David F. Haas, Haas. My website is davidhaas.ca or davidfhaas.ca, because I'm in Canada. We get the .ca, not the .com.
Yeah.
And the podcast you already mentioned, Rise Up Rich. I have a YouTube channel, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, so you can check me out on all those platforms. And yeah, I'm just about like what we talked about in this podcast, and and what I do on my social platforms is just try and provide as much value as I can all the time, and just spread the message of what I experienced in my life, which was like I went from the grind and the hustle to the flow, where when I was grinding and hustling, I felt like I was never getting anywhere and I was burnt out. And then I switched to this place of being in flow and abundance, and then all of a sudden, effortlessly and miraculously, everything began to flow into my life. Everything that I ever wanted. I have the house, I have the car, I have the boat now. And it's like I was like, oh, this is what I was missing, and that's ultimately the message I kind of deliver is how I achieved all that on my social platforms.
Thank you, Dave, for being on the show. Everybody, make sure to go check him out. Rise Up Rich is the podcast. Instagram, David H. Haas. Facebook, same thing, David H. Haas. YouTube, and then also check out Treehouse. Website is treehousebarandgrill.com, and their Instagram is Treehouse Windsor. Thank you so much, Dave. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot.